Hey there designers, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a super cool technique to give your website or app design that extra touch of refinement by adding noisy gradients. You might wonder why you would want to add grain or noisy gradients to your design. Well, it's simple. Adding grain can make your visuals look more organic. It adds depth and texture, making your design stand out from that typical flat design look. Let's take a quick look at what we'll be creating today. Here we have a simple landing page. It's fine if you want to go for a traditional or a flat look, but let's add noisy gradients to this. You can see that the gradient and the noisy background give this design a more dynamic and engaging feel. So let's get started on how you can achieve this in Figma. In Figma, let's go ahead and create a new page. We will name this Noisy Gradients. Let's create a new artboard by pressing F. We can change the dimensions to 1000 by 1000. Hit Shift 1 to bring the artboard to the center of our view. Let's rename this artboard to Noisy Gradient. Now, there's a couple of plugins that we'll be exploring today. Let's go to the Resources panel by hitting Shift I and navigate to the plugin section. Next, let's search for a plugin called Grainy Gradients. Hit Run and wait for the plugin to load in. This is what our first plugin looks like. Let's go through all the options. There are two buttons here. Randomize will help us randomize the colors, and Generate will take the gradients that we see in the plugin and place it inside Figma. You also have the option to specify a set of colors. This plugin will generate a random gradient using these 5 colors. Once you've specified the colors that you like, you can also go ahead and turn on the lock toggle. What this will do is tell the plugin that you only want to randomize the placement of the colors and not change the colors themselves. Last, you also have a slider to specify noise. Feel free to play around with all of these settings and create a gradient that you like. Once you're happy with the gradient, you can go ahead and tap on the Generate button to place this gradient inside Figma. If you just wanted to add a cool gradient, then this is probably good enough for you, but we can take this to the next level. We can see that there is a clear issue with the gradients that this plugin generates. They are images. And images are not the most friendly when it comes to coding. They're large in sizes, may take time to load, and if you try to compress them, they lose quality. Another issue is that once we have generated the gradient, we cannot edit it. If I want to change one of the colors, I just can't do that. Let's try and create our own noisy gradients, which we will have full control over. Go ahead and duplicate this artboard by pressing Command D, Control D if you're on Windows. We can then delete the gradient image inside and rename this artboard to Editable Gradient. Now, in the gradient that we generated, you can see that there are multiple colors here. Let's go ahead and create a few shape layers of similar colors in our new artboard. We can create an ellipse for the main light part and add another shape for the dark blue part on the left. If we double click on the dark blue ellipse, we can enter the vector editing mode, which will give us control over the anchor points of this layer. Let's go ahead and tweak it to our liking. To come out of the vector editing mode, just double click outside the vector that you are editing. We can also change the background color and add a few more shapes. Make sure to arrange any overlapping shapes according to your liking. Now let's turn these shapes into a gradient. Hit R to create a new rectangle and make it the same size as the artboard, then align it to the center. Let's change the fill property to white at 1% opacity, and finally add an effect of background blur. Let's change the amount to something crazy like 292. And there you go, you've created a beautiful looking gradient with multiple colors. You can tweak this to your liking. Let's not forget about the noise part. To add noise to this, select the top layer, which will be the rectangle that we added, and let's go back to the plugins panel to search for Shumi Noise. This plugin will help us create noise in our design. We can go ahead and play around with our settings till we get a texture that we like. I like to set the blend mode to multiply and have reduced opacity. And there you go, a fully editable noisy gradient. Now, You might say that this noise that we are using is still an image, and you would be right, and using images for development is a big no-no. To overcome this, there are a couple of libraries linked down in the description that your developers can use to create the same noise and render it natively on the web or iOS. What you need to share with them is just an SVG of the blurred background that we have created. You can also check out a working example for yourself, the link is down in the description. Feel free to play around and create many more noisy gradients. There is a community file down in the description with some editable gradients that we have created. Be sure to check them out. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon for more design insights. Until next time, happy designing.